Why would you want to rotate a hinge joint? That is going to be the topic of this episode of Chi Life. So this is a question that came up in one of the Qigong courses that we're running at the moment, and I thought it was an interesting one and worth sharing the answer with a wider audience. So that's what this video is going to be about. Basically, some of the joints in our body are primarily designed to fold in one direction, much like a hinge. And one of the students in one of the courses had been told that because of this, it was not a good idea to do rotations, and specifically she was asking about the knees. And someone had told her it's not a good idea to do rotations of your knee joint because it's actually a hinge joint. But this is done very commonly. We often do it as part of a warm-up before we move on to other movements and exercises. And this is done in many styles of Qigong, Tai Chi, martial arts, many things. So why could this potentially be a good idea given that the knee is a hinge joint? I'm going to demonstrate some things to explain that now. So this is the kind of movement where we generally put our feet together, bring our hands down onto our knees, and we make circles or rotations like this, and then we go the other way as part of getting all of our different joints ready for some other movements. We do our wrists, we move through all of our different joints. But our our knee is a hinge. It's primarily designed just to move in one direction, forwards and back, or from this angle, forwards and back. Yeah, and so it's reasonable for someone to wonder, well, when you're doing rotations, you're not just moving the knee forwards and back, you're also moving it side to side. How can that possibly be a good idea given that the knee is primarily a hinge? And it comes down to our understanding of, I guess, the versatility of our joints and how we have to use them in practice. Because if our knee was a rigid hinge that could not move to either side at all, this would actually make us really vulnerable to injury. Because all it would take would be for us to, I'll move back a little bit, put our foot down on something that's on a slightly funny angle, right? And now the hinge is facing in this direction. Try to load our force through it. The force would have to go off on a funny angle. Either we would fall over or we would break our hinge. And so the hinge joints within our body are not designed purely to just go forwards and back in one direction. The elbow is another hinge joint, but they're also designed to have at least a small amount of play or movement to either side. This then allows us, again, we put our foot down on something that's on a slightly funny angle. Instead of just being sort of locked in like this, we can have a small amount of movement. So we can put it down, and now we can load effectively through that joint and send force in the direction we want to go in without breaking our knee and without falling over. So when we're doing a movement like knee rotations, we are working with some of this lateral movement. It's not a lot of lateral movement, there's just a little bit side to side, but this makes the joint much more versatile. And what we want is we want it to be strong and flexible within that small range of movement. We don't want to force it too far to one side or the other, but we do want it to be able to move through that small range of motion and to be supported well by the tissues on all sides as we do this. So doing this type of movement is both stretching, but also by gently loading those tissues. It's helping them to stay supple and actually strong, so if anything, they help to stabilize and support the knee within its range of motion. It helps to stop it from going too far to one side or the other, but giving it enough motion one side or the other so that it can be stable and adaptable as we stand on different surfaces, have to turn and move our body in different angles and things like that. So a little bit of a mundane and technical one today, but hopefully useful to some people. to understand practically why we do some of these things. Now, I am going to add a few details. If you have serious problems with your knees, it may not be a good idea to do knee rotations. It may be that this aggravates things and inflames things, and you might be better off not doing them. You might be better doing some other kinds of warm-ups for your knees. Or if you have more moderate issues with your knees, it may be a good idea to do those knee rotations, but to do them very gently to begin with and build them up slowly. And if you do that little by little as a natural process, you will make them stronger, more supple, and more resilient. But with everything in life, you do need to listen to your body and listen to, are you pushing it too far, or are you actually helping it? Are you strengthening it in a useful way? All right, I hope you enjoyed the video. Again, a bit of a mundane sort of technical little thing, but I am looking forward to getting back into making some videos with this kind of content on the channel now as well. So you can look forward to some other ones coming up soon.